Perhaps we can start with you taking us back to the beginning in terms of what inspired you to pursue an apprenticeship in project management and specifically within the data center and the construction industry. So yeah, just give us a little bit as to the start of the journey.
Yes, so it all went back to when I was in sixth form, just over sort of almost 7 years ago now. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I kind of did work experience. Went with my dad to his work for a few days, went to some companies similar to Arcadis, and did a couple of days with Arcadis as well, and thought, actually, this is really something I want to do. I realised quite early on that I didn't want to do uni full time. That was just something that didn't necessarily interest me, having the whole sort of uni life, moving away from home. I just wanted to get on and start working. I'm a really visual learner, so I knew that an apprenticeship was the way to go and to just kind of start and get stuck in and really, really as I say, just give it a go. And then, as I say, did it work experience with Arcadis, found Arcadis, thought project management construction. That's really great, really interesting. I'm such a people person. I love talking to people, so project management was just it suits me really. And then construction, I just love the idea of seeing what I've worked on as a building and just watching it sort of get built really. That was really interesting. In terms of data centers, I completely fell into that. I didn't know necessarily what industry I'd be put into when I started with Arcadis. So when I first joined Arcadis, I was in the industrial manufacturing team working on a vehicle testing facility, so very different. COVID, I started with Arcadis in 2019, so it's just before COVID. As a fresh apprentice that didn't have that much work on, I was put on furlough for 7 months. The opportunity to sort of come back into Arcadis and come back into work was to work on a data center project in Austria. I jumped at the chance. I just wanted to work on anything really at that point, having 7 months off, being so new into a company. I thought I'll take anything. Did data centers, this project in Austria, and I thought, wow, this is really interesting. Really enjoyed sort of the industry, and then have just pretty much stayed in it ever since. Worked on a couple of projects in Europe, and then some in the UK as well, which have been really great. More recently, seeing one sort of being completed last year, which was it was so good to sort of watch it from the concrete being poured to having a finished data center that I could walk around and see. Although I didn't see the full design, the full project, sorry, but it was still so interesting. Kind of did see it in operation. That's what I'm getting at there.
Okay, and in terms of your role at Arcadis, so you say you joined as an apprentice, and I think you're now a fully qualified project manager. So you obviously mentioned a couple of projects, but just give us some idea of that sort of career or job journey.
Mm. Yeah, so definitely started off as an apprentice, literally knew nothing, came straight from sixth form. So fresh into the industry. I just wanted to be like a sponge and sort of take everything in. So I've gone through quite a few promotions. Started off apprentices level 3 within Arcadis, and then you sort of progress up to the levels. So more recently, at the start of 2026, I got promoted to a level 7, which is, as you say, a fully qualified project manager. Throughout the process, I've worked on various projects, sort of as the years have gone on and as I've progressed up the levels within Arcadis, I've started to take on more responsibilities, actually being able to own work streams on projects. A lot of the data center projects have been so big, so I couldn't necessarily own and project manage a whole project myself at that point, which is fine because we've all got to start somewhere. So I've done sort of a wide range of tasks on a project. I've seen sort of what the more junior levels do, which is great, and then I've been able to sort of share that knowledge and pass it on. I've line managed an apprentice and more recently a graduate, and that has really helped sort of develop me and been able to sort of pass on the knowledge that I've picked up throughout the sort of 6.5 years that I've now been with Arcadis.
And in terms of the qualifications you brought with you, it'd be good to understand that. And then also sort of part two of the question, the skills that you've developed during your apprenticeship and how they've sort of shaped your approach, to managing the projects that you're now doing. So yeah, but really, I suppose the qualifications and skills journey.
Yeah, so in terms of qualifications, it was all very much set up within the apprenticeship program. So I started with Arcadis and my degree at the University of Wolverhampton. So my degree was in construction management, quite a generic degree for sort of any construction project managers out there. There was no specifics, but it gave me a real good, broad understanding of what project managers do, how certain processes work, just looking at the industry as a whole. And then it's kind of the work experience in data centers on the projects that have really shown me what data centers are. So I finished the degree in 2024, kind of in the summer then, graduated in September 24, which was brilliant. So it took 5 years to get the degree, which I know is slightly longer, but as I was doing it on day release, 1 day a week, I was able to get that degree while working at the same time. Once I then completed the degree, the final part of the apprenticeship was to get chartered with the Royal Institution of Chartered Surveyors. So I'm now, as of November last year, I'm now officially a fully chartered project manager, which is brilliant. That's not an easy journey to do. A lot of the assessment for that qualification, looking at the APC, the assessment of professional competence, is all about experiences and how I've advised clients and the projects that I've worked on. So to do that so quickly after a degree, I think I'm really proud of myself for doing it, and a lot of people have said that's brilliant to have done it so quickly. So they're the sort of two main qualifications that I've got purely because of the apprenticeship route, and I think that's brilliant. There's potentially others out there that I'd like to pursue, such as specific contract training, which will just really help sort of elevate my project management skills to be able to provide the best advice to my clients, really. Then moving on to the second part of your question around skills. Communication is one of the biggest project management skills that you need. I suppose it's needed for most careers, but as a project manager, I'm expected to talk to clients, talk to different stakeholders, and make sure that everybody on the project knows what's going on, when it's happening, sort of programming as well, being able to understand how long projects take, different work streams within each project, so sort of the design phases, to make sure that the client's then aware of what's happening. And again, it goes back to the communication piece of saying, well, this is what I've delivered on your project throughout the month. This is then what's going to happen in the next 6 months, for example. I think that's kind of the biggest skill as a project manager. There's just so much talking. Yeah.
And I'd just be curious to know, you say you the degree you had a day release, I think it was, but did you find it at all difficult to balance the academic learning with the proper, the job you were doing, but also, I suppose, conversely, did you find that what you were doing at work actually helped you with your degree because you were getting real world experience? So just, I suppose, the pluses and minuses of doing the two in parallel, if you like.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So doing the degree alongside work was tough, specifically in sort of the final 3 years, I suppose, because I was starting to get more responsibility at work. There was deadlines that I needed to meet. People relied on me to get things out there and sent off to the clients. But also I still had university deadlines. So there was definitely a lot of sort of evening and weekend working to get everything done. And that is difficult. But I did realise that I knew it was 5 years. I knew when the end was coming. So that really helped to sort of motivate me along and make sure that I met all them deadlines for both client and university, and also for the APC as well. That's anyone that's done that knows how difficult that is of a qualification to get and the amount of work required. It took over my whole life. Anybody that I spoke to end of last year knew that I was doing the APC. It was the big thing that I could just talk about because it was everything. But then in terms of, as you say, sort of the positives, you're absolutely right there with what I was doing on the projects. I could then go back and apply to my university, sometimes having a bit more knowledge than the university lecturers, I could say at times. A couple of the things, the university lecturers, although they're great, they hadn't necessarily got experience in the current industry. So some things they were saying, or you'd post things, but really it's all done on email or through different sort of platforms online. So that was interesting to sort of see the comparisons of what the industry did previously look like, and also going through COVID as well and seeing how, albeit I only had about 6 months experience before COVID, seeing how the industry had sort of changed and how that changed how work was being delivered, how the university was working, how the university lecturers were teaching us as to what actually happened in the industry, looking at things such as like procurement and tendering. That was the biggest one, and it stuck with me even now. And that was probably kind of second, third year of uni, but I still remember sitting in the lecture thinking, oh, that's not quite how we've done it on my project. And obviously it changes depending on the company you work for, the clients you work for. All processes will be different compared to uni, but it's still it was interesting. And there's so many things that more recently in one of my projects, one of the specific contracts we had a whole semester on. And actually, I'm looking back on the knowledge from that semester and my uni assignments and going, oh, wait a second, that applies there. Ah, that's really helpful. But kind of conversely, the other way around in uni, when I was writing the assignments, I was like, oh, I did that here. So, yeah, as you say, it was really helpful and it really made the difference. And to me, it showed all, as I said before, apprenticeships are hard work. There's a lot involved. It takes up your whole life, but it's so worth it because of the experiences that you get from both ends of sort of the academic and the physical work experience.
Yeah, I'd also be interested in as you were doing that and subsequently, I mean, how has the support from Arcadis played a role in terms of your progression? I mean, do you have some key mentors or even moments that made it significant? Just yeah, the support of Arcadis, in your journey.
I've been really fortunate to have been surrounded by some fantastic people in Arcadis. The one that I will name is James Ricks. He has made me, and I will give a lot of credit to him, he's made me really successful. He pushed me so far out of my comfort zone that I didn't even know where it was. And he said, talk on this conference panel, do this podcast, you lead this meeting, it's absolutely fine. And I go, wow, okay, that's brilliant. And he really supported me, especially when times were difficult, when uni assignments were due. He'd say, that's okay, take as much time as you need. We'll take back some of your workload. You use that then to go and actually spend time on the university assignment. And he did leave the business sort of midway through the apprenticeship, which was a shame. But then I've been really fortunate that after that, there has been people that have sort of seen the support that he gave me, and they've still provided me the support. So, as I say, when assignments were due, I'd just let kind of my manager know at the time, the people that I was working with, saying, look, I've got, for example, the dissertation. That's, as pretty much everyone knows, it's not a small piece of work. It takes a lot of time, but actually they'd let me off with a bit of workload and sort of say, you know what, Laura, you can focus on that, get that done. We know you'll be back. We know when the deadline is. And then as soon as that's submitted, you're straight back in. You're back to sort of leading the projects or the work streams that you were leading before. And I've been fortunate with that. And APC more recently as well. I was able to sort of drop one project. I was working on two projects at the time. One project said, for this last month while you're studying, don't worry about us, we can cope. Just focus on your other one and your APC. And that, I think without it, I would have really struggled. I would have been so stressed. And so I'm really grateful for that. And all the support that I've had has been brilliant. And there's been some real good advocates sort of in Arcadis as well for apprenticeships, making sure that apprentices are treated right and that we understand all the requirements of the apprenticeship, sort of the endpoint assessment and things like that. So yeah, had some fantastic support.
And from your perspective, what makes the data center industry an exciting place to build a career right now? And I guess if I can ask, clearly it's a fairly male-dominated industry. So yeah, do you find that you clearly haven't found that off-putting, but is that a bit of a challenge as well, should we say?
I suppose having wanted to go into construction anyway, knowing that construction itself is generally male dominated, I knew that that was coming when I started an apprenticeship in project management. So getting into data centers was kind of just that, it's really similar. It absolutely is male dominated. There's not many young people in data centers as well. So I've been to conferences such as Data Center World for the past sort of 4 years, and it's been interesting to see how over the 4 years, sort of, I've seen more younger people walking around, more younger people on the stands, which is great. They have sort of universities there. I've been involved with Higher Hires Rising Star program as well, which is all about sort of talking to school children, sort of year 12, year 13, sixth form age, and telling them about the industry and saying, look, this is what it is. Actually, there's some fantastic opportunities, and that's going back to sort of your first question. There is what attracted me as well, and what's sort of kept me in the industry is that the opportunities available. There's opportunities to potentially travel, but there's some really exciting projects that actually impact sort of everybody's lives. I've worked with one of the biggest sort of hyperscale data center clients. I can't name them because of NDAs, but I know that pretty much all my friends, all my family will use this company on a daily basis. So me, just having worked on one of their data center projects in Europe, I know I've had an impact on their lives, which is just so cool and exciting to be able to say I've done that. That's what's been really great for me.
And were there any particular challenges you faced? I mean, it's quite a technical and certainly a fast-paced sector. So, and I'm not saying other parts of construction, but I imagine it is, one of the more complicated areas, shall we say? And were you able to overcome, or how did you overcome any challenges you encountered?
I think it sort of goes back to the support network that I had really, whereas I was so young on the projects, but I was fortunate enough to have the people around me that would say, can we just give Laura a chance? Can we let Laura take on this work stream? And then clients have usually been quite accepting and thought, you know what, we do need to develop our workforce and we need to get younger people in and give them the responsibility because inevitably it's going to be sort of the younger generation that takes over and leads the industry at some point. That's how the world works. So I've been fortunate that people have sort of seen the potential in me and wanted to give me a chance and let me have a go and progress and see what would happen.
And maybe in finishing, a couple more questions. The advice you might give to someone who's considering an apprenticeship route into whether it's sort of general project management or the data industry today, what would you tell them?
I'd just say go for it. Apply for as many as you can. Apprenticeships are really competitive to get. I remember having to apply for at least up to about 15 apprenticeships during the time when I was applying. I did about 7 interviews and only managed to get one offer for a job. So you have got to apply, but there's more apprenticeships out there now compared to when I looked. So definitely just go and take a look. But also when you get onto the apprenticeship scheme, take every opportunities that you possibly can. If someone says, do you want to travel to this site? Do you want to meet this client? If you can, say yes. By doing that, or even sort of go into things such as data center world. Do you want to speak on a podcast? Do you want to speak on a panel? It's scary, it's daunting, but say yes because you get your name out there. And I'm now fortunate I've got a fantastic network. I know quite a few people in the industry. I really enjoy going to the events and having even just been able to speak on a panel before I was 25. I've spoke on 3 panels now. Didn't expect that. I've won an award for sort of the work that I've done by speaking on the panels on the podcast, even doing this interview. If you asked sort of 19, 18-year-old Laura when she first started her apprenticeship, would you do an interview for sort of DCS? I'd say, oh, no, 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 that's scary. I can't do that. I've not got anything to talk about. But now I'm so much more confident in sort of doing that and I'm happy to do it and happy to sort of talk to people and say, actually, this is my experience. You can go out and do it too. And it's nice as well. I'd like to think of myself as a bit of a role model for sort of younger people to say, actually, I'm a young woman in construction, in data centers. You can do it too.
Okay, and I haven't asked actually, at what point did you, especially you mentioned obviously you had different projects and you kind of fell into data centers. Were you then asked whether you wanted to specialize in that? Did you ask or how did you become, how did data centers become your particular focus?
I think, as I said before, I kind of fell into the first project, and then as that project sort of died off, a different project came up with the same client, and I said, yeah, no, I'd really like to do it. And then a few others have sort of come up in my time, and I've almost tried to a little bit more actively seek out the data center project, sort of staying in within Arcadis, within the technology team, just to make sure that I do get the experiences on the data center projects that are good. More recently, I worked on a much smaller 3 megawatt data center project in the UK, and it was interesting to see sort of the differences between sort of the giant hyperscalers, where there's
Yeah.
so many on that particular campus, to just this one small facility, but being able to see the whole project through was really interesting. And I was asked to sort of move off the project, and I did actually say, actually, no, I'd like to see this out as much as I can. Unfortunately, I did have to move off the project before it finished, but I got to go back and see it just before it's handed over to the client, and I'm really glad that I did that because I got to see, as I mentioned before, I saw the concrete being laid, and then it was like a full building, and that was so good to see. And I've always tried to push and like seek out the opportunities whereas I can develop and see sort of these data center projects through to develop my experience. And then as I go through my career, to be able to say, actually, I've seen a project from the whole sort of construction stage, or I've seen the whole design phase, and being able to match that up and have the experience to know that I've got the knowledge to then advise clients in the future.
Yeah, and future's good final question. What's next? Any thoughts as to how your career within Arcadis and the data center industry is developing, any ambitions, objectives you've got, or do you just enjoying it and see where it takes you?
At the moment, I'm really enjoying it, not having to study as part of the apprenticeship program, to actually have sort of my evenings and weekends back and just be delivering the projects. But as I've said to my line manager more recently, I've obviously gone through the apprenticeship route. I'm quite ambitious. I don't just want to stop here. So albeit for the moment, maybe I am taking a slight backseat, but that won't last for long with me. I want to progress. I want to obviously go through all the different promotions, become the senior project manager, the project director, and I want to be able to own sort of a whole project or a series of like projects and say that's what I'm managing. And also, what I'd love to do is sort of mentor a new apprentice, a new graduate, and provide them with advice and all the knowledge that I've got. I've got so much, after having done the APC recently, there's so much knowledge that I've got that I just want to pass on. You could ask me a question, I'd probably just try and blurt out the answer because I'm just so enthusiastic about it. I really enjoy what I do, and I just want someone else to be able to learn and sort of benefit from the support that I've had. I want to be able to pass that on to someone else, really, and just keep growing.
That's fantastic. I mean, it's been lovely to chat, and thank you so much for sharing some great insights into your journey into project management and obviously focusing on the data center industry. So, Laura, I really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to speak and share this journey that I've had.